Good morning. Get ready with me while I answer some questions and do a quick Q&A. I have a little list of questions sitting here and I'm going to answer them while I do my makeup. So first is, how did you become pro? So basically, I never thought I could go professional. I did not have a lot of self-confidence as a teenager or as a child. I was just like really timid and shy. I vividly and specifically remember the time when I was in a private with my teacher for, I think I was rehearsing Keytree's Variation, Act 3. I remember she paused in the rehearsal and she looked at me and she said, you could go pro if you want. And I remember being really surprised and really taken aback. And I was like, really? And she's like, yeah, like you could go pro. And at this point, I was like 15 or 16. I was already older at that point. And I was like, okay. And she said, would you like to? And I said, yeah, I would really like to. So from that point moving forward, I had a different mentality and I was starting to work towards going professional. Whereas before I was just really dedicated and just wanted to become the best that I could be. But at that point, I knew in my mind that I wanted to try to go pro. So then comes a time where you audition and you go to summer intensives to be considered for their second companies or whatever. So that's what I did when I was 18. And that's when I got my first contract and moved away from home. And the rest is history. I eventually went into freelance. I know this isn't part of the question, but I eventually went into freelance during COVID because of all of that going on, and I stuck it out with freelance and I really like it. How many hours do you train a day? I trained a lot more hours daily when I was a student. Now it depends on if I'm rehearsing for a ballet or for a performance that's coming up. Right now I'm not currently rehearsing for anything, so I only am really going into the studio 5 times a week or so and taking a 2-hour ballet class. Most times I'll stay afterwards and also work on things by myself just to keep my strength and stamina up. And then I'll do Pilates a few times a week for cross training. And then I also like to go on long walks. Those are more just for my mental health though, not so much part of like training. When I am rehearsing for a performance, it is more than this, probably double. So I still take the ballet classes and then I rehearse for a couple hours after that. Theater days are a different story. Of course, we're at the theater for many, many hours at a time, usually all day. Next question is, how painful are pointe shoes? So pointe shoes are definitely not comfortable. I think that's pretty obvious, but you'd be surprised. They're not supposed to hurt as much as people think. If you are fit in the right shoe, you're not going to be in constant pain. You're not supposed to put your pointe shoes on, go up on pointe, and be in pain. If you are, then you're not in the right shoe for the shape of your foot. But yes, pointe shoes inevitably will hurt the longer that we have them on. Like when we're dancing in them for hours, you start to get kind of like this painful numb feeling. And then of course, if you have some sort of injury or blisters, bruised toenails, corns are just a few of the things that you could have that make pointe work very painful. But if you're just doing like a 30-minute pointe class a week, if you're like a student, you should not be in a ton of pain. So how painful are pointe shoes? Not that painful unless you're dancing on them for a long time. Then that's when it starts to hurt. Favorite and least favorite step. So I have 2 favorite steps. One is fouettes and the other is saut de chat. Least favorite step is consecutive turns in arabesque or attitude. I really struggle with those. I like to say it's because of the length of my legs. I really do think it is because of the length of my legs and the flexibility in my lower back that it's really hard for me to do those. But maybe I'm just making up excuses and I should just get better at them, but I really don't like them. What is something that audiences never see backstage? There's a lot of things that audience members don't see, which is what I try to show on my social media channels, is all of the kind of the work that goes into what we do on stage and just like the behind the scenes. But something that they don't see directly backstage at the theater is how insanely chaotic the backstage area is most of the time in the wings. Like, the most beautiful performance could be going on the stage, and it's complete chaos backstage, and the audience would literally never know. It is quite magical, honestly, how that happens. But I think if you're not a dancer and you go see a ballet, I would really love for you to experience the chaotic nature of the backstage area at least once, because it is kind of crazy. It isn't always chaotic. Like, if you're backstage at the Nutcracker during the snow scene, you know, there's so many dancers that are exiting and entering the stage, running around, like running behind the stage, running across, going in one wing, going out another wing. Like, it is just, you don't want to get in anyone's way, because there have been some times where people like run into each other and hurt each other. It can get really crazy. Most embarrassing thing that's happened to me on stage. I can think of two times where I was pretty embarrassed on stage. One was my entrance for Dewdrop. I was like 18. Good thing this is just a dress rehearsal, but in this choreography, Dewdrop runs on and poses around or in the middle of all the flowers, the corps de ballet. And I remember running, posing. And as I was stepping up to pose, I completely slipped and just like face planted. I completely fell straight to the ground, a huge thud. The girls around me were laughing, not laughing at me, I guess laughing with me, because I started to laugh too, but it was definitely kind of a nervous laugh. I just shot right back up and kept going. Good thing that was a dress rehearsal. And then the other thing I can remember is, I think this was during a performance. I was actually performing with Brian, and our costumes got stuck together. So the back of my tutu got stuck to the front of his jacket, and it was a part where I was supposed to be walking away from him, and I couldn't walk away. And I just remember smiling, because you can't show the audience what's happening, you know, you have to hide it. And I was panicked on the inside. I guess this was more panic than embarrassment, but I could feel Brian trying to get it loose. So I was just smiling and holding my position, and then eventually he just like tore us apart, and then I was free. But that was definitely a little bit of a panic moment. Okay, I'm almost done with my makeup. So for the rest of today's Q&A, I'm just gonna do a rapid fire. I have a few listed here. And then at another time, I can do another Q&A with another set of ballet questions, and also different types of questions about freelance, income, maybe more of my personal life if you want that. But anyways, the rapid fire: coffee or tea, coffee and matcha, beach or mountains, both, just depends on my mood. Favorite ballet, I don't have one. I have 3: Giselle, Nutcracker, and Swan Lake. Favorite food, definitely don't have one. I love yellow tofu curry, mango sticky rice, any type of carbs that include potatoes, and pancakes. Favorite city, I feel like I haven't traveled enough to answer this question, but does San Diego count? I was born and raised here. Morning or night, definitely, you guys are gonna hate me for this, morning. And something on my bucket list, to perform somewhere in Europe is definitely on my bucket list. So that's all of the questions I have for today. If you guys are dying to know something, just let me know in the comments. I commonly will look at comments, and I have a little notes app on my phone where I write down what you guys want to see and some of the questions you have. So there's a high chance that I will see your comment and write it down for a future video. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this just short little Q&A, and I will talk to you later.